It is 3 a.m. in the Ypres salient, 1917. The mud has stiffened to a grey crust. You have been awake for 31 hours. Your rifle is cold steel, and somewhere beyond the wire, something moves. Your eyelids are lead, and then, just for a second, you let them fall. That second could cost everything. In World War I, falling asleep on guard duty was survival at its most irreducible. The story of how soldiers fought sleep, built endurance systems from nothing, and survived the most psychologically punishing conditions in warfare is one of the most overlooked chapters in military fieldcraft. This episode goes deep into that darkness and, well, brings back something worth knowing. The Western Front trenches were improvised cities of mud and timber stretching 400 miles from the English Channel to the Swiss border. A soldier endured permanent sensory assault, cordite, rotting wood, decomposing flesh. Artillery was so constant that silence became alarming. The system ran 3 lines deep: fire trench, support trench, reserve trench, linked by zigzagging communication trenches. A sentry stood on the fire step, peering through the parapet into no man's land. His world, 2 feet wide, barbed wire above, nothing between him and the enemy but darkness and probability. What history books omit is the improvised engineering that kept men alive between firefights. Corrugated iron became dugout roofing. Sandbags packed with chalk and clay maximized shrapnel resistance. Timber salvaged from ruined farmhouses prevented collapse in waterlogged ground. The dugout, a shallow clay scrape barely large enough to sit in, was sealed against rain, insulated against cold, ventilated against gas. Survival craft, learned under fire. Soldiers dug sumps at the lowest point of each bay to collect and bale rainwater. Duckboards kept men above standing water, repositioned after every bombardment, as critical as ammunition resupply. Hot food travelled 2 miles in Dixie cans through total darkness, arriving lukewarm. Men ate with the gratitude of those who know this may be their last meal for hours. Bully beef, hardtack, tinned jam. Leftovers became stew on a Tommy cooker, a pocket hexamine stove producing no visible flame. Water arrived in petrol tins, tasting of petroleum, chlorinated against disease. Soldiers never drank from shell craters. They also harboured gas residue and biological contamination. Waiting for the night ration, no matter the thirst, was fieldcraft. A silhouette above the parapet for 1 second could mean death. Loopholes were cut into the parapet and disguised with burlap and mud, improvised periscopes, just mirror shards in a wooden frame, really. Let sentries scan no man's land unseen. Raiding parties wore Hessian suits stuffed with vegetation, moving only when the wind stirred the grass, freezing in place during flare bursts. Ghillie suit craft, born under fire. Trenchfoot actually claimed more early war casualties than the enemy. The fix was whale oil daily, dry socks whenever possible, and mutual foot inspections as a standing drill. Lice were managed with a candle flame along tunic seams. Morale was sustained through letters, shared newspapers, and small deliberate comforts. Psychological self-preservation, not luxury. The British Army rotated sentries every 2 hours. Sergeants ran irregular rounds without warning. But the deeper enforcement was social. A soldier found asleep faced the men whose lives his eyes protected. Smart units knew this was a systems problem, not a character problem, managed through rotation, buddy pairs, and quiet conversation to keep the sentry present. The techniques soldiers evolved, shifting weight constantly, locking attention on a fixed landscape point and returning every few minutes, reciting memorized text under their breath. These were never taught. They were discovered by necessity, passed between men like field medicine. The men of the Western Front were farmers, factory workers, and shop clerks who built extraordinary systems under mortal pressure. Their fieldcraft is the ancestor of every modern preparedness principle: water purification, improvised shelter, caloric discipline, camouflage, fatigue management, no tutorials, no gear reviews, just mud, wire, and each other. The soldier who fell asleep wasn't weak, he was human. Systems and communities work with human biology, compensating for its limits in ways no individual can alone. That is the deepest fieldcraft lesson of them all. When you stand your next watch, in the field, on a long drive, or simply staying present when everything in you wants to quit, remember the men on the fire step. They endured not because they were different from you, but because the stakes were absolute and their community demanded it. You carry that inheritance. That is what Fieldcraft Chronicles is about, not nostalgia, the real hard-won wisdom of people who could not afford to get it wrong. If this episode taught you something, share it with someone who values self-reliance, history, and survival. Subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles. New episodes go deep, so you don't have to go in blind. We'll see you at the next post. Fieldcraft Chronicles, knowledge earned the hard way, delivered straight to you.